My name's Jonathan Norman from the Major Projects Knowledge Hub, and I'm interviewing Paul Bradley, who is Group Head of Programme Controls, Planning and Reporting at Qinetiq. Paul, I wanted to talk to you about how you're using recruitment and talent management as a means of building capability and professional project and programme management. But before I do you want to just introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you're doing?
Okay, so you said I'm Group Head of Programme Controls, Planning and Reporting, and to Qinetiq it's a reasonably new function, a reasonably new discipline within the function that we have had in existence for about 18 months to 2 years now. I joined Qinetiq probably about 2.5, nearly 3 years ago from having a kind of project and programme management background through companies like British Aerospace, BAE Systems, Logica, CGI, but also kind of a little bit of my career's taken various different pathways. Hence, the element around having different pathways in your career is something that's quite key to me, actually. I've been given the accountability and responsibility to develop a discipline, to develop a capability internally that supports our entire delivery function. So all our project managers, all our programme managers, all our delivery and programme directors, with the right foundational support around the control of projects, monitoring how they're progressing, the performance of them, introducing good and ideally best practice in planning, in scheduling, and using the systems and tools that we've got. So that's kind of my responsibility. It is as one element within a wider corporate transformation, and we're looking at how we develop our business, to kind of meet the demands of the modern world. And fundamental to that is how we deliver stuff and how we deliver it more effectively, more efficiently, using the resources we've got, identifying what resources we need, and then looking at how we deliver that to obviously satisfy our shareholders but also our customers. So having a lot of the underpinning foundations there and the basics, getting that right, is kind of key to all that.
Yes. So when you overlay that with career paths, what does that then look like?
So I think it's fair to say, Qinetiq has kind of adopted a kind of career structure within, certainly in the delivery function, like a lot of companies have done in the past, which is fairly linear, starting in the sort of project support areas, moving into project management, moving into programme management, and then moving into the sort of more leadership roles. We are looking, as I said, to not only kind of develop our operating model to meet the kind of the demands of the marketplace and how we deliver, but also to be able to kind of stand alongside our peers and our industry peers and competitors to say this is how we do things, and this is how I as an individual see myself up against and compared to others in my profession. So what does a project manager actually mean? What are the competencies required? What's the experience level? What are the soft skills required of that role? Similarly, if you work in programme management, portfolio management, or in the project controls and planning space. And these are, the kind of Venn diagram of competency overlaps quite a lot, but it's also recognising where they don't, and where the specialism needs to be, and what the tools that those individuals need to be able to discharge the accountabilities that particular role has. So it's really about making distinctions between certain roles, understanding where the overlaps do occur, and where those overlaps are, what is the expectation against those, recognising that, say in the basic sense, a project manager will need a set of skills, a programme manager will need those same set but an additional amount, and will as a basic level, need to work more in ambiguity and more in an agile environment. Recognising that a discipline such as project controls is largely more a forensic type of career, and with that, the devil is in the detail. So, what sort of skills do those individuals need? And recognising where people actually fit. I think the danger with the linear approach that we've had in the past, and I said a number of companies have done so, is that you kind of box people into roles that doesn't necessarily match their skills or match their aspirations. So by creating these kind of parallel career tracks, and within the delivery function, you could be looking at half a dozen different ladders, and making sure that they do overlap, so that there isn't an element of kind of seniority of one above the other, that it is about competency, it is about capability, it is about skills and experience, but it's not one of those, it's all of those together, and giving a sense of professionalism to roles that previously weren't, in that kind of space.
Yes. So I guess you're tackling some of the status issues associated with different roles.
Yes.
So there's this sort of
Yeah.
sense of hierarchy and status.
There is, and that won't change overnight. We will put in frameworks, we'll put in career pathways, we'll put in job descriptions that clearly articulate what those roles are, that takes it away from that status element. But there still will be perceptions that we will have to address and to kind of demonstrate really what's the kind of differentiations we're making. That it isn't about status, it isn't about hierarchy. You don't, if you are, let's talk about line management, for instance, and management of people. You don't have to be here to manage these type of people. There's more flexibility to that, and that allows us then to be a bit more flexible, or a lot more flexible in how we approach clients, how we approach customers, and how we approach delivery to those customers. But as I said, it'll take a while. Some of those things are kind of generational, really, and it goes hand in hand with an overall business operating model that is more flexible in nature and that is more agile in nature, and recognises that some of the traditional approaches to careers and professionalism don't necessarily stand the test of time, and that we need to adapt.
So are there particular tools that you use to identify particular skills amongst individuals? Do you look at it from the perspective of generations? We've got Generation Z coming along. Do you look at it from...
Not so much that. I don't think we personally aren't necessarily as ahead in that thinking as we could be. I can kind of see some of the benefit of doing that. At the moment, we're kind of almost in the foothills of understanding at an individual level their competencies against a range of a framework, and fundamentally we use the APM framework, competency framework there, to assess, get individuals themselves to kind of have an element of self-awareness as to what their competency is in certain areas. Then ask the kind of line management structure to validate that that's correct, that they're not either being optimistic or pessimistic, and as individuals kind of tend to one or the other, and then using that as a kind of a template or a kind of a basis on which to kind of make the decisions as to who is best placed. I agree. There's probably a lot more we could do in that space. And being able to, as you said, using some of the generational stuff, because the sort of range of skills, or the kind of the bias for the skills can change, and maybe sort of certain generations are better at things than others. But at the moment we're kind of in early stages of doing that. we have in the past kind of used the competency frameworks almost as a bit of a metric, but not the so what element. And certainly the last 2 to 3 years, as we've been starting to develop the disciplines in a more kind of structured basis around the sort of parallel careers, actually really identifying the competency framework against each one of those, recognising the commonality but also recognising the differences, and then what's the so what is the development path for that individual, understand what their aspirations are. So if they want to stay within a particular discipline or functional line, then to get from here to here to here in their career, what do they need to do, based around sort of frequent competency assessments as they go through development. But if they, as we talked about Z pathing, if they want to go between discipline or functional or business legs, it's really identifying where the gap is. Where does that sit? Is it in the hard skills? So is it in around the techniques that they're using? Or is it their softer skills, so leadership, the team management aspects, the client engagement, the stakeholder management, those sort of things, identifying where those gaps are and how do we address them. We work very closely with our training academy, so we have a corporate training academy which basically runs all our programs, our training programs, and both internally and externally. I am a customer for a lot of those programs, so I kind of define what the priorities are from a business perspective as to what training we need to do. But that training is overlaid with coaching and mentoring and on-the-job experience. So we take a sort of 70-20-10 approach, which I think is fairly common. Around 70% comes from the workplace and the experiential side of things. 10% is classroom or online based, and the other 20 is through mentoring and coaching. And we are looking to take a more coached approach to both individual and organisational development now and in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Some really great insight, and so thank you for your time and for your input.
Great, thank you very much.